Hi everybody, I hope you're having a good morning, noon, night, whatever time you're deciding to watch this video. My name is Brittany and I'm a Houston artist here to help you with all of your artistic needs. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute little clay paper plane. So look over the supply list listed below, but before you do that, let's not forget to subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell so you can be notified of all the videos I will have for you. Let's get started on making this cute little plane.
These are going to be the best tips that I have on how I made my paper plane. I'm pretty sure there's many ways to make it, but I like to think this is a quick and straightforward way of doing it. Let's start with the material list. You will need a rolling pin, Sculpty clay, I'm using white, and you will also need steel cutters. I had 2 within my collection. You don't have to use 2, but if you do have those on hand, why not use them? Sculpting on top of paper is not necessary. I just used a color sheet of paper so it was easier for you to see the clay as well as the plane while I'm doing this process for you. Begin by removing the clay from the packaging. To be more precise, you will want to break off about 1/4 teaspoon of clay from the amount that you initially pulled from the package. Using the clay that you just formed, begin to form a snake, or if you don't really care for snakes, use it to make a thin roll of clay. This is going to be the centerpiece of our paper plane. After kneading the clay with your hands, you can also use the table and roll out that thin piece of clay to make it even thinner. You do want to have this to be thinner rather than thicker because we are going to have this in the centerpiece, so you don't want it to be too fat. Grab another piece of the scrap clay and take about 1/2 teaspoon in size. This is going to be the portion that we're going to use to make the flaps. More precise, the flaps of the plane, not flaps as in chicken wing flaps. Begin to form a ball with the clay that you just pulled out. Once you have it nice and round, begin to use your rolling pin and flatten that ball out. It does not need to be perfect. As I always say, it doesn't need to be 100% perfect. We just need to get partially there, right? Roll the clay out until it's, I would say, about 2/4 thicknesses, like one stacked on top of the other. Now for this next step, it's not necessary. You don't have to use a cellophane or have a plastic covering. I'm just using that because the clay is sticking to the paper. So I absolutely skipped a step and started into the process without actually telling you guys what I was doing. So during this time, ignore what I'm doing. Just ignore it. Ignore it because I am going to go over it again in about 10 seconds, I would say. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, look at that, I'm wrong. Start to observe those angles of those planes for what we're about to do next. Using the image that I will have popping up now, observe the angles of the paper plane. Use the steel cutter to copy that angle and put it over the clay piece for where you need to cut it exactly. Line the cutter up, move it over to the clay, cut it. That's the steps that you want to use to get more of a precise angle when it comes to an accurate angle that's similar to my own paper plane. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Just try to get as close as you can to the angles that I have on my plane if you're using mine. If you are using your own source of reference, after cutting the angles, begin to score your clay. So you want to make some cross hatches. That's basically what scoring is. You want to do it on the base of the clay, and you will also want to do it on all of those little individual pieces. After scoring your individual clay pieces on the bottom sides, take that little snake piece and put it in the middle of the base. Then you'll want to take the top portion of your plane flap, put that on the top, take the bottom portion of the plane flap and organize that on, of course, the bottom. Press the pieces firmly, but be careful and do it with caution because you don't want to squish the clay that you just formed. After securing your pieces to the clay base, go over the angles. If you see something that's not to your liking, just tidy it up a little bit. After you've done that, cut off all the excess piece of clay using your steel cutter. This cutting tool will help to get more precise angles. If you don't like how one of the edges look, you can cut a little bit further onto the base, and you can also use it how I'm using it right now, just to make a straighter edge. I also like to use both pieces to pinch some of the plane, like occasionally, just to make sure it's more compact and even tidy. After doing that, just finish up by cutting off the remaining excess if you still have some. I know I'm a little bit slower in the video since I didn't actually speed up any of this process, so we can do it in real time. Well, as real time as it can be for, YouTube and on a pre-recorded video. If you see any fingerprints, which might occur, oh, that was really weird. I kind of sounded like Cardi B in that, right? Like, or whatever she does. I probably sound like a weird chicken, but whatever. If you see any fingerprints or blemishes that you don't like, don't worry about it because we will be sanding it. Using your cutter tool, remove the paper plane from the bottom of your table. Also put it on top of a piece of foil. That's what we're going to use to put it in the oven. You want to preheat your oven to about 275 and bake the clay for about 15 minutes. Use this piece of foil to put on top of a baking sheet for you to put in the oven. You don't want to put that directly on your grates because you might burn yourself. After baking your clay, use sandpaper to refine the surface of the paper plane. The grit I'm using is about 80, and then I also will use 100 grit. Of course, if you're happy with how your paper plane looks, you don't have to sand it. I just want mine to be a little bit more perfected. Also keep in mind you don't have to use these grit numbers also that I'm using. These are just the grit numbers that I personally prefer using when it comes to all of my sanding needs with my arts and crafts that I have within my artworks. After you're done with sanding and you're content with how everything looks, you can then go ahead and prime the surface of the paper plane and then continue on with painting it till your heart's content. I would love to know how you guys' paper planes turned out. Go ahead and don't forget to comment below and send me pictures. Send me pictures on Instagram so I can see how it turned out for you. I would love to see how you're using this tutorial with your paper planes. Trust me. Thanks so much for watching my tutorial, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? You watched the whole video, go ahead and do it right now. See you guys next time. Bye.